All right, with this next section here at point 7, we have angles that are inside and outside of the circles. There's going to be a bunch of different formulas. You should be provided a formula chart, though, with this, so you just really need to know how to apply them. So the first category here is when we have angles that intersect inside the circle, or two lines that intersect inside the circle to make a, some type of angle. It's in the circle and it's got a property here between them. Angle 1, you're going to say, is going to be the average of your two arcs, the two intercepted arcs that you have right there. So that would be AB, the measure of arc AB right there, the number of degrees there, and then the arc for DC as well. So if you add those two arcs and then divide by 2, that's an average right there. That'll help you find angle 1. And you can also do the same thing here with the other two arcs here. If you were to find angle 2, you would just use these, I guess, bigger versions here of the arcs here. So that would be the average of AD and then the average of BC on those arcs. So we'll apply that here in just a second. You're also going to have a couple of these formulas right here, angles outside the circle, and it kind of have the same idea. Basically, you're going to take the two arcs that are inside of the two secant lines, or the tangent and secant lines that you're working with, and then you're going to subtract them, and then you're going to divide them by 2. So as far as what does that look like here when you have a tangent line, here's a tangent line right there, and then a secant line. You're going to use the two arcs that we're dealing with here, so that would be BC for one of the arcs between, and then the smaller arc between the two lines right there is AC. And you just take them and subtract them, and then you divide by 2, and that will find you this angle right here that is outside of the circle. Okay, the next one here is pretty similar. You have two arcs, so here's your big arc between the two points there, between the two tangent lines, I guess, and then there's your small arc between the two tangent lines. So one of them is actually a major arc. Usually on this example here, it'll be a major arc, which means you need 3 letters there for that. So PQR would be the bigger arc. You would subtract the smaller one, which is PR, and then divide by 2, and that would find your angle 2. And then the last different small variation to the case here is when you're dealing with two secant lines. But it's the same idea. Take your two small arcs, subtract them, or take the two arcs, I guess, between the lines and then subtract them. So it'd be XY, that arc, and then minus the arc WZ. So we're going to go ahead and apply those here. They're generally not too hard. It's just really plugging into the formula. The only thing that can make it interesting is maybe they actually give you the angle and you have to work backwards for an arc. But we're not going to do a ton of those here today. So here's all you got to do here on these. So if we're finding angle X right here, we're going to say X is, and this is the one where you add them. And that's because the vertex is here in the center. And you would be provided that formula there, so you would just need to know which formulas, I guess, you use. So that's in between, so we will add them and divide by 2. So it's 112 and then plus 140, and then we'll divide that by 2. So 112 plus 140 is 100 or 252. And then we'll do that times 1/2, or basically divide that by 2. And that gets us that X is 126 degrees. And that's about it there. They're not incredibly hard. Number 2, pretty much the same thing here with some different numbers. Here's your two arcs that you're dealing with right there. So we'll go and do, let's say X equals, and then that'd be 85. Actually, it's 1/2, and then 85, and then plus 65. Okay, 85 and 65 was like 150, I believe. And then times that by 1/2, that should be 75 degrees. And that'll be it right there. So those examples aren't really that incredibly hard there. You're really just using the formulas that we gave you. So let's see here a few different variations of the previous 3 formulas when the angles are outside the circles. That says take your big arc minus the small arc and then divide by 2. So Here's your big arc that are between the two secant lines, and then here's your small arc between the two secant lines. So we'll go 155 minus the 63, and then we'll multiply that by half. That'll find our angle. So 155 minus 63 is 92. So we'll just go 1/2 of 92. And then that's going to be 46 degrees. And I guess you can call it X or question mark, whatever you want right there. Okay. Some people get a little bit stuck here on number 5 as far as not figuring out where to go, because they really only give you one of the arcs right here. So they gave us this big major arc here, 250 degrees. They did not tell us this small arc. But since there's only 2 arcs that we're dealing with right here, and we know that all of them need to add up to 360, we're going to start this one out here. And I'd put a star next to it. Start it out with doing 360 minus 250. Okay, and that's going to get us 110 degrees right there. So this minor arc right there is 110 degrees around the angle right there, or around the circle, I guess. And then now we'll go big arc minus small arc, like the last one we did. It's just now we're dealing with 2 tangent lines. So take those, and then you'll multiply by a half right there. I think that should be a 140, and then half of 140 should be 70 degrees. And that'll be it there. Alright, and then pretty much past this here, they're all just kind of repetitive or slightly different questions here. So we'll knock it out here quick. This one right here, big arc minus small arc right there, that'd be 120 minus 32. And then we'll do half of that. 120 minus 32 is 88. And half of 88 should be 44. And that'll be your degrees. Okay, last one here, pretty much the same thing, except slightly turned here, but it's a big arc minus a small arc there. It's 170 minus the 72. And then we'll do half of that. I think that's, what is that, like 98. Half of 98 should be 49 degrees. And that's actually going to be it there to the lesson there. Now, like I said, the only variance you could really throw at someone here is maybe putting an X here and giving you an angle right there. And in that case, you'd have to work backwards. But we're not going to be doing a ton of that here this time around, so don't worry about that.